Hello, and welcome to another episode of Fear the Talking Heads. Thankfully, today I am joined by Chad Harlan, who you've also seen on Scarefest TV as a co-host for Wes. Hi, Chad.
Howdy, how are you?
I am good on this lovely weekend day. It's the sun is shining and we're inside recording. Perhaps we should have taken
Well,
this outside today. I don't know.
we're not blessed with that weather, so it's cold and
Oh,
overcast here. Enjoy
Wisconsin
your
took,
sunshine while it
yes,
lasts there.
Wisconsin took a little from Kentucky. So
Yeah.
today we're going to be talking about Danielle Harris as our topic of discussion. And Chad, how long have you been a fan of Danielle Harris? Obviously since she was a kid, right?
Well, I certainly enjoyed her movies that far, but I can say for sure that when I actually became a fan of her as an actress and as a person was the first two times I saw her at Scarefest. I mean, her movies I enjoyed and certainly loved Halloween. It's my favorite franchise is Halloween, but seeing her, especially as a grown up, because I was really only familiar with her kids' roles at that time, the early Halloweens, Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, and Last Boy Scout.
With the
But
puppet.
yeah, seeing her as she interacted with her friends at Scarefest really made me a fan to see how much she really enjoyed being there and how she interacted with everybody. And then I went back and started digging more into her other work. And I will say, I'd say 98% of the celebrities that I've seen and interacted with at Scarefest are nicer in person than you would have even guessed.
The fact that we've had her, I think is this her third year in a row? I think this is her third year in a
I
row.
think this is the third, yeah.
So at
She
Scarefest,
had a gap there from her early days of being there to she started coming back again, and it was nice to see her back there and see her kind of getting involved again with Scarefest.
so for Danielle Harris, the two franchises that we're going to talk about today, which I think we picked some good ones, are the Halloween universe and then also her time on Hatchet, the second and third one. Now with Hatchet, I saw the first movie about a year ago, and I was surprised because I didn't know it was going to be that gory. I had no idea going into it. It was a little jarring at first, but I liked that the storyline was set in Louisiana and just kind of the feel to it. And knowing Kane Hodder, of course, a little bit of trivia in case anybody didn't know this, Kane Hodder does play,
Victor Crowley.
but the second and third one shows Danielle Harris as Marybeth. Now, in the very first movie, it's a different actress that plays that, but Danielle Harris really stands out as Marybeth in the second and third installment. So, spoiler alert, if you are about to watch this, know that we're going to be talking about spoilers between those two franchises. There's not really a way around it in this case. So Danielle Harris's character, Mary Beth, is only in the second and third one. She's not in Victor Crowley. She meets her end in the third one. But wow, what a little badass she was in these two movies.
I really enjoy that franchise for a lot of reasons. I really think that it came back to kind of the 80s horror idea.
Yeah.
There was one bad guy. He had a backstory. Unlike, we got into and I'm not saying anything bad about those franchises, but, we get into the Saws and the
Right.
Hostels in the 2000s that aren't really character driven. And then Adam Green came back with Hatchet, and I mean we saw some of it in Scream too, but they brought it back to a character driven movie where they can focus on that. I really thought it was a throwback, but modernized it too. And I thought they of course brought in a lot of the horror celebrities and concentrated them all in one movie.
They did. And what you just said about the 80s throwback, that's so true because they tried. Adam Green has this gift with trying to find deaths that haven't been shown on TV before, on movies before, because I'm sorry for whoever doesn't like a whole lot of gore, what I'm about to say, but one of the movies that I watched last night, and I'm trying to remember if it was the second one or the third one, they're both blending now, but this guy, Victor Crowley, sticks his hand in his gut, pulls out his intestines, and the guy tries to run and he yanks him back by his intestine. And I was like, oh my gosh, Adam Green really did that. That's wild. Had not seen that in any other movie before, so he gets points for originality.
He was a great guest too to talk to. I really enjoyed meeting him. No, I really enjoyed what he did with those movies and kind of bringing, the kills have a reason and a purpose. It's not the splatter porn we saw a whole lot of throughout the 2000s of it was graphic just for graphic sake. They did a lot of stuff in those where they were trying to find new and interesting ways to have a kill, but they all led to the story and fit the dynamic. So I also like in those movies that they focus on a specific place. That's so this is in the Bayou of Louisiana, whereas you go to your Halloween even Haddonfield, it's not a real place. You don't have anything to associate it with. Camp Crystal Lake, it's this really unlocated camp that's out there, but you don't really get to tie it to a real place. And I kind of like the bayou and the swamp becomes a character in the movie as much as it does.
I mean, it kind of at one point shows one person that's kind of laying there. He looks to the one side and there's Victor Crowley like just waiting for him to go in that direction so that he can beat the living hell out of him. And then you look in this direction and there's an actual alligator waiting to eat him. And I thought, yeah, I mean, you are out there in the swamp. I suppose that's a very real risk that could happen is just becoming someone's dinner. Death roll time.
Absolutely. Like I said, I think they did a great job with the movie, and I think that was kind of the introduction for me to Danielle as an adult. So it kind of
Yeah,
brought her back into horror movies, at least for me, in a more adult role, and I
yeah.
enjoyed seeing her in that position.
We first started seeing her in Halloween 4. She said it didn't affect her mentally until later when she was in Rob Zombie's Halloween. So she noticed as an adult playing Annie Brackett that it was bothering her because Michael Myers could touch her then and as an adult, whereas as a kid, she wasn't really face to face with him in that same way. So she said it was a completely different experience as a child, which normally you would think as an adult, okay, yes, I know this is make believe. And as a child, you would think that, oh my gosh, this poor kid's gonna have nightmares after being in this movie. But for her, it was opposite. Did you know about that?
Well, yes, I've heard her talk about that, and I mean, if anybody who's listened to her podcast knows that she grew up very quick, and I'm sure that a lot of stuff wasn't processed. But yeah, if you go back to the original, she didn't have a whole lot of scenes directly with Michael Myers. Right at the end of 4, where she touches his hand, but it just shows his hand. So you don't really, I would say on set that they probably sanitized things to make it not as traumatic for her. Going back to that universe where it all started as an adult and having a very different role where she's actually being killed by Michael Myers. I'm sure that brought up some stuff.
I think we both agree that her role as Annie Brackett, she did amazing. If you take just her
Absolutely.
and Scout even, and you look at just their characters, that's really something to appreciate. Say what you will about Rob Zombie, but he really brings out an emotional response for the characters. Annie Brackett in the original with John Carpenter was like, ah, she's just a character. Annie Brackett and Rob Zombies, I felt for her. You saw her being tossed around a room like a rag doll, and she's fighting for her life. Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, here she is as a survivor that made it through and is trying to now live her life. It really affected me. I really enjoyed the second one more because it's almost like a character study of two girls who have different ways of healing and recovering from that night. So, what were your thoughts on her character as an adult in the Halloween universe?
I thought that it showed incredible range by her to have had the role in the original series and then be able to shed that, not play that character anymore, come back to the same franchise, although a new iteration of it, play a different character, and go from playing a child version of a victim of Michael Myers to an adult version. I thought it showed that she had a lot of range. She understood the character, she understood the movie, the plot, and how to adapt that and put it on screen. And like I said, I don't enjoy the Rob Zombie. I don't absolutely hate them, but I don't enjoy the thematic changes that were made. It went from, in the original series, it was set in suburbia where it could be anybody watching the movie. It was a regular suburban household. Everybody was happy. And then you take Rob Zombies, which I do like the fact he gave the backstory more of Michael. But it goes from a regular suburban household to now it's seems abusive and chaotic. It's a much grittier origin than the original movie, and that's really my issue with it. I wish he would have stayed more with the Michael Myers could be the kid next door. It's a suburban everyday household.
I do think you make a very good point saying that isn't it scarier to know that this kid was just fine all the way up until he wasn't?
Yep.
That he was just the next door neighbor's kid that lived a good life. His parents never said a bad word to him, and all of a sudden he just grabs a knife one day.
Yeah, like I said, I've always thought that was the scarier story.
There's been times I've gone back and rewatched it where I fast forward through the kid part and go straight to now he's an adult and how does he progress through the movie as adult Michael Myers. That I much prefer rather than what they did show for the kid.
In the original, I wish they had gone back a little bit and showed that he was the normal kid next door. So I do like the concept of going back and giving a little bit of backstory on him, but I did think John Carpenter's idea of he's just the kid next door. Nobody suspects anything. He's not up to mischief, and all of a sudden he just snaps and kills his family.
Oh
I
yeah.
think that is scarier than he's the guy who's mutilating animals. But as far as Danielle and Scout, I believe that they both did an excellent role. I mean, Scout had big shoes to fill coming in and taking over a role that was so iconic. And Danielle had to come in and make people believe she wasn't still Jamie Lloyd. And I think she did a great job with that and really made that role her own.
She's not seeing that he has these weird tendencies, that he's behaving like not a normal child. No one's paying attention to this kid. Now, something that I only found out recently, and it's information that's probably been out there forever for the fans to look at, but that she was originally going to be part of, the Thorn trilogy. She was in 4 and 5, and then 6 was the end of the Thorn trilogy. And that she was really originally set to play that, but uh, emancipated herself just so that she could have that role because it was a timing issue for kids, emancipated herself from her parents so that she could do this, and that they came back and wanted to pay her scale. It just didn't feel right, so she didn't take it. But being that Halloween is very much a choose your own adventure, you could watch 1 and 2 and then skip to H2O. I love that. I know some people don't appreciate it. I think it's great. And you can skip around to different ones. You can watch just the trilogy, the Thorn trilogy if you want. And she has kind of brought it up as an option, like, hey, we could retcon this and have showed from 5 instead of 6, make 6 not canon and go straight from 5 and then show how Jamie Lloyd is as an adult. I mean, they very well could do that. What are your thoughts in regards to that? Would you like to see her back in the Halloween universe, or would you prefer to just see her in other roles?
I have said ever since they came out with the last trilogy, I thought it was time to let Michael go and let's find out what Jamie Lloyd does. I mean, she already put on a clown costume and she stabbed her foster mother, and then we had the other movie where she's kind of working with Loomis to get Michael, but I think that demon's still in there. I think it's time that she takes up the Michael mantle and she becomes the lead character of the next set of Halloween movies.
I agree with you, and I think that they tried to smooth that over in the 5th one because it's like, did you think that we forgot what just happened in the 4th one? Because in the 5th one, they don't really show what happened with the parents. We're just gonna glaze over the fact that she just stabbed someone at the end of the 4th one. But I mean,
Yeah, they
they
decided to reset that, but
They really could go back a little bit further and bring Ellie Cornell back. If they wanted to, they could branch it off of the fourth. Say, oh, this is what happened in the fourth one, and then show her relationship with her foster sister, Ellie Cornell, in whatever would follow the fourth movie.
We also have to remember that this is a Halloween movie. Michael dies at the end of every one of them and shows up in the next one.
Yeah.
Took 6 bullets to the chest and fell out of a third floor window in the first one, and then immediately pops back up and is gone. I mean, they can kill the character and they just show back up next time within well, I guess they didn't hit anything vital.
We just saw him go through a meat grinder not that long ago, or whatever that was. Basically turned him into ground meat.
Yeah.
Like you can't come back from that unless you're gonna do Ghost of Michael Myers. I don't know.
Well, and that's kind of what they did with five. He touched Jamie Lloyd, and she became, I guess, possessed with the same demon, and then did the stabbing. So there's this. They set up the idea that the evil can be passed along. So I would be all for Jamie Lloyd coming out of a psychiatric hospital and going on her own killing spree.
She's also directed a movie called Among Friends.
Yeah, I thought she did a very good job with that. I thought it was a well written movie. Thought the concept was fun. She had a cameo in it, so she's acting in it too. It's obvious that they put her in there so that she could get top billing and they could,
Oh
because she was
yeah.
the star power. But she's not in there a lot, but you can see it's her vision.
Okay.
And like I said, I really enjoyed that movie. I watched it early on when it first came out, and then I went back and rewatched it recently.
Okay.
Um,
Hey, the fact that you found it rewatchable, that says a
oh
lot.
yeah,
If there's someone that you are going to see at Scarefest, I encourage you to take a deep dive into some of what they've done, or even some of their projects, their side projects. Like in her case, she's not necessarily in the movie a lot, but that's another project of hers that you could talk to her about. It's a good conversation piece for when you go up to her
speaking of
table.
Scarefest television, you'll see me do this a lot, and it goes back to your last point. The celebrities love to talk about something different than what everybody else there is going to talk about. So
Yeah.
yes, go see some of their lesser known stuff. There's been two celebrities in the last couple of years where I talked to them about a TV show they guest starred on for one episode called Parker Lewis Can't Lose. And I love that show. So I love to talk about it, but I go to the Scarefest television podcast and I'm talking to them about Parker Lewis Can't Lose. And they just light up and start, oh yeah, I did this and I did that. And Mahalif,
Oh,
R
RA. Okay.
RA. I couldn't think of the second letter to save my life there. RA. He guest starred on Parker Lewis Can't Lose. And he enjoyed talking about that more so than, I mean, everybody's asking all these people the same question. So find something else and you will initiate a conversation a lot of times.
If you haven't caught Scarefest TV, where Chad is on there as a co-host, it's his voice that you hear on the microphone at Scarefest Weekend, announcing when things are happening.
Yeah, being ignored by most of the crowd is what
Oh
I spend
no.
most of the weekend doing. But
Are they tuning you out, Chad?
they do, they do. I'll literally make an announcement, and somebody will be standing in front of me waiting to ask me the question I just announced. Happens all the time. But yeah, I'm the annoying voice from overhead most of the weekend with Katie Followell helping me out on the announcing too some. So we switch hit on that now. Her and Scout have a podcast together where I didn't realize I was a prude until I started listening to it. But if you want, they talk very openly about the work they've done and who they've worked with. They have a lot of their guest stars on there, but you will really get to know them better and have something to talk about that will probably spark more discussion than asking what it was like stabbing her foster
Right.
mother. So they talk a lot about the industry, both what they have done and what they're doing now. So you also get kind of a preview of projects that are coming up, but a lot of what they talk about, and we touched on it early on in our discussion of the psychological effects of being a kid growing up in Hollywood and how these movies affected them and that sort of stuff. So it really gives you a lot of background into what it takes for them to make these movies and what they've gone through personally to give us this art to watch.
We're lucky that some of these celebrities do have their own podcasts, that we kind of get that insight that we otherwise wouldn't. I mean, you think about before podcasts were even a big thing, you really only knew what was put in a magazine about them. If they did an article with someone, a journalist that had questions in regards to a movie or what they're doing outside of that in their personal life. If you're listening to this and this is your first time going to Scarefest this year, they have done a live version of the podcast at Scarefest. Get a ticket to that, and then you can, see them in person and how they interact together, her and Scout.
There's a lot of audience participation at
Oh,
those
is there?
live
Okay.
recordings. Oh yes, they are asking the audience questions as much as the audience is asking them questions. I've attended the last 2 years. Everybody there seemed to have a really good time.
Oh, because that's something you can do because you're not, it's so late at night, you're not announcing anything anymore, right? That's late on Saturday typically.
Yes, and but I was still there working. I took pictures for the website, and I was
Oh,
still
did
doing
you?
Scarefest stuff. But at least I
Nice.
was in there doing it instead of standing at a booth. So
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you for sharing your experience because it seems like there's a lot of first timers that are coming to Scarefest this year. So if anyone does watch this, that's kind of gives them a little bit of some what to look forward to if they do that this year. Sad that I missed that last year because I didn't know that they were going to have Dee on there as a guest. But yeah.
there's no way to ever know. They just
Yeah.
grab somebody at the convention and take them down with them, so you never know who's
Oh,
going to be there.
so it's a surprise really every time.
Yeah, the first year they did it, they Jack Osborne was there, and they drug him in there.
Oh,
So yeah, they
nice.
don't announce who their guest is going to be because it's usually just whoever they pass on the hallway, I think, on the way back to the hotel. I
Huh.
really enjoy your work, so I appreciate you having me on and giving me a chance to talk to you a little while about
Oh my
something
gosh. Yeah.
I actually have some information about. So many of the movies you're going to be reviewing is out of my wheelhouse. So
The fact that I can talk to someone who actually appreciates the topic is just like the cherry on top. So I appreciate you taking the time out of a weekend to hang out with me for a little bit.
a pleasure as always. It's
Yep.
always wonderful to see you.
All right. Well, this has been another episode of Fear the Talking Heads. Please check out the Scarefest website. It should be a fun year. It always is, isn't it, Chad?
I've been going every year since 2008. I wouldn't miss it. So it just gets better every year.
Absolutely. All right. Toodles. We'll see you next time.